back to my channel. Thank you all for tuning in. So tonight I want to take a look at my least favorite album from my favorite band. That would be Bon Jovi's 2020, released in 2020. This is really the only Bon Jovi album that I don't think is at least average. Honestly, it's probably the only Bon Jovi album I wouldn't say is above average in my opinion. I've had a number of problems with this album since it came out, but I've been thinking lately that, I think there is a way to get a good album out of this. So that's what I tried to do. So I'm going to go back to this album and reimagine it, reinvent it, and I think that I've come up with a better album. So let's get into this. Starting off the album, we're going to start with the song that should have started this album all along. It was the original album opener before the album was pushed back due to COVID-19. That is Beautiful Drug. Many people consider this the best song on the album. I do as well. It's a song that, despite being put out in 2020 with John's vocal limitations and sort of the state of the band at this point, it's a song to me that feels like it could have come from that New Jersey Keep the Faith era of the band. I would love to have heard this song recorded by Bon Jovi in 1988, 89. I think it would have been awesome. Love the track, love the guitar work. Strongest track on the actual true album in my opinion, and should have been the opener, so that's what we're going to stick with. Track number 2, I'm going to stick with Do What You Can. This is a logical choice for a single, and I'm going to keep this as being the album's, keep this as a single. We're going to make it the album's first single, actually, because, spoiler alert, I'm scratching Limitless. Do What You Can is a song that is quite catchy. It originated from the COVID lockdown when John played this song online on, I don't know if it was Facebook or YouTube or whatever it was, but they sort of sped the track up a little bit for the studio version. Has almost a country kind of a feel to it, something that wouldn't have felt too out of place on like a Lost Highway. But it's an absolute timestamp of a song, I think, for what this world was going through. Back in 2020, it would have been the logical song for a single, and at the end of the day, it's still a catchy track. I do like it, so Do What You Can. It's going to remain track number 2. Track number 3, I'm going to go with a song called Ain't Dead Yet. This is a song that appeared on YouTube somewhere late 2021, 2022 maybe. And you can just tell by the state of John's voice that it came from the 2020 sessions, because it just, you can just tell. His voice doesn't sound as strong as it did on This House Is Not For Sale, so 99% sure that Ain't Dead or Ain't Done Yet came from the 2020 album. Whether it was recorded for it or after it, I don't know, but it's a great song. I still remember the first time I heard it on YouTube. I clicked on it having no idea what it was, and it just was one of those Bon Jovi tracks that just sent a shiver down my spine. John's not trying to do anything vocally. He can't do at this point. It's just a really nice melodic track, and I love the message, because at this point in time I was afraid that Bon Jovi might be done. The state of John's voice. I don't remember if this came before or after that really disastrous tour of 2022, but it was just kind of nice to know that he ain't done yet, and the fire's still there, and it was just kind of putting this really nice melodic Bon Jovi song. I love it. Should have absolutely been on 2020 had it been recorded before the album was released, but we're putting it on this version of the album because I would have to say this would be my favorite song on the album had it been there. I love it. Track 4. This is where we're going to make things, we're going to make a little turn here, and the album's going to take a bit of a heavier or darker turn. Not necessarily sonically heavier, but thematically. We're going to put Unbroken at number 4. This is a song I kind of struggled to figure out where to put it. It definitely deserves to be on the album. I think of any song on this album, Unbroken has grown on me more than any. My first thought was that it's kind of bland. It's kind of boring, kind of plodding. But the more I get used to it, the more I listen to it, John's vocal delivery in this song really makes you feel like, I don't know, just kind of gives you the emotions that the soldiers with PTSD must be going through. I think John just conveys the message extremely well. It gives you an appreciation for the men and women that have served our country and sacrificed so much themselves. The song was written for a documentary back in 2019, I think it was. And the more I listen to it, the more I think it's actually a really brilliant track. But it's a very heavy track, not so much sonically, but just emotionally and topically. Deserves to be on here, and it's going to be like a little bit of a precursor of things to come, as you'll see. So yeah, Unbroken. I'm going to place it right here at number 4. So we need to pick this album up a little bit after Unbroken. I'm not ready to kind of go into the soft part of the album yet, so I tried to keep this to songs of the 2020 era, but there was 2 songs released back in 2018. They're credited to the This House Is Not For Sale album, but I'm kind of in the mindset now, what if the guys would have held these tracks for 2020 instead of putting them out in 2018? Those 2 tracks would be Walls and When We Were Us. Those are the next 2 songs that I'm putting on this album. Walls at track number 5. I kind of forgot how good this song is. I tend to forget about these 2 tracks actually, but they're quite good tracks and they're definitely worthy of being on an album. But I think Walls kind of picks the sonic tempo up a little bit. It's not quite as dark as Unbroken is, though it's still a very thought-provoking track. A little bit more, I don't want to say anthemic, but it's a little bit more anthemic than like an Unbroken. When We Were Us is quite anthemic. It's another one of those kind of standard Bon Jovi tracks. It's kind of in the vein of like We Weren't Born to Follow meets When We Were Beautiful, kind of in those kind of in that group of songs, but it's kind of a nice pickup after the heavier thematic tones of Unbroken and Walls. So we're wrapping the first side of this, or the first half of this album, up with When We Were Us. Alright, so now we're going into the second half of this album with track number 7. And I swore I didn't want to do this, but I wound up doing it anyway, and I think this actually works quite well, these next 4 songs that I have here. Number 7, I'm going to put Lower the Flag. Now, when I first heard the snippets for this song before 2020 was released, I was about ready to write this song off. I thought it sounded kind of bland. I thought it sounded kind of dull. I already didn't really like American Reckoning. Unbroken hadn't really grown on me yet. And it just felt like it was one of those kind of songs I'm like, eh. To my surprise, though, I actually quite like Lower the Flag. It's another sort of topically dark and heavy track, but it's a soft acoustic number. It really harkens back to like a These Days. It's also one of those time-stamped songs, 2020, the previous couple years, all the horrible tragedies that different parts of this country is going through. And it's another one of those just really thought-provoking songs. I actually really like the song. So Lower the Flag had to stay on the album. I'm keeping it in the number 7 spot. Number 8. I'm going to go with the song that they should not have taken off the album, Shine. I love this one. It's another slow song, but I kind of like the guitar work in it. John's vocals, it would have been great to hear him sing a song like this in 1995, but in 2020, I think it works a little bit better for me than some of the other tracks from this era, but I don't know. I just like the track. Always have. I think it was the wrong thing for them to choose to cut. Shine's going to be the number 8 spot. Number 9, I'm putting Story of Love. I really like this song. It's another pretty soft song. I love the intro to the track is really nice. The sort of minute-long guitar solo at the end of the song is also really good. Really, it's an emotional solo. Kind of feels probably the closest that Phil X has ever come to making me think he was Richie Sambora. because it kind of has like a Richie Sambora feel to it. I love the theme of the song, which is the kind of I'm not trying to throw a Lion King reference here, but kind of the circle of life. It starts off with parents loving their child, and then the child grows up and is take care of the elderly parents, and then has children of their own and children of their own. It's just kind of the cycle or the story of love. It's a great sentiment, and I really love the track for that. My only critique on the track is lyrically, it feels like a bit of a mess sometimes. I kind of wish the lyrics were a little bit more precise, maybe almost like a timeline kind of a song. Like I kind of think of Five for Fighting's 100 Years. If the lyrics have been something more like that, they just kind of feel really repetitive in places, and it kind of feels like it's just all over the place. I don't know. I kind of wish the lyrics would have maybe been a little tightened up, but either way, Story of Love is probably my second or third favorite track on the actual album. So for sure, it had to stay on my revamped version of 2020. In the number 10 spot, I'm not a big fan of this song, but a lot of other Bon Jovi fans, most other Bon Jovi fans tend to like this one a lot, and it's one of the more popular tracks on the album. So I'm keeping it for you guys. I'm going to go with Blood in the Water. This is basically Dry County Part 2, and I get that. I love Dry County as much as anybody, but this one just never did anything for me. It feels too forced to me, and I don't know, that just sticks with me. And even listening to this song a couple of times over the past couple of days, putting this playlist and this album together, it's still not my favorite track. It's definitely better than the ones that I'm cutting from this album altogether, but it's just not my favorite. So I'm keeping it here. I will say one thing for the track, it is very epic sounding. And something that I noticed, I really love the way that these four slow songs, work together. It just kind of slowly builds in the epicness. You're kind of starting with Lower the Flag, you're kind of starting really low, I guess. That would be a better place to put my hand for this. Low. Then you're kind of creeping up with Shine. Shine's getting a little bit bigger sounding, a little bit epic. Story of Love is kind of getting a little bit grander and more epic, and then Blood in the Water, maybe my least favorite track, but I think it is the most grand sounding and epic sounding of the four consecutive slow tracks I put here. I was trying to avoid this. I was trying to avoid putting all these slow tracks together, but I think this section of the album actually quite works, and I actually did quite enjoy it. Alright, so we got to pick the album up at least one more time before we close things out. So the penultimate track is going to be Brothers in Arms. I like this as a penultimate track. It's another politically charged song, which on the actual album, I think by the time you get to Brothers in Arms, you're a little burnt out on the politicalness of it, but I think I've broken it up enough on this one, and Adam's added some non-political tracks like Ain't Done Yet and When We Were Us. Shine's not really a political track. Story of Love's not political, so kind of breaking the politics up here. But it's a nice track. It's got a bit of it's one of the rockier tracks on the album. It's not the most memorable in my opinion. This one and Let It Rain to me are two songs that just sort of I tend to forget about, but I do like Brothers in Arms better of the two. So I needed a track to sort of pick up the pace one more time. Head to head between Brothers in Arms and Let It Rain, I decided to go Brothers in Arms because I think it's the better song. And then we're going to close this thing out with the other song they took off this album, Love Can. It's another good track. I don't like it quite as much as Shine, but I still do like the song. And considering that by this point, the only options I had left was Limitless, American Reckoning, and Let It Rain. Of the four, I like Love Can the best. I also think Love Can is the best sounding closer to this album. So, there you have it. That is my revamped version of 2020. As I listen to this, I kind of liked it better than the real thing. Because you're getting rid of Limitless, which I do not like. I don't like that song at all. I don't like American Reckoning. And I even expanded the album. I don't know how I did it, but I expanded an album that I don't care for, and I somehow made it better. But certainly adding tracks like Ain't Done Yet, really improves it because I love that song. Walls and When We Were Us, two great songs that were released 2 years prior to 2020 that kind of get credited to the This House Is Not For Sale album. But I don't know. My thoughts during this project was, what if they would have just held them for 2020? So I think they would have fit pretty well. So there you have it. Let's go over the track list again. Beautiful Drug, track number 1. Track 2, Do What You Can. Track 3, Ain't Done Yet. Track 4, Unbroken. Track 5, Walls. Track 6, When We Were Us. Track 7, Lower the Flag. Track 8, Shine. Track 9, Story of Love. Track 10, Blood in the Water. Track 11, Brothers in Arms. And track 12, Love Can. Let me know in the comments below how you would revamp this album, or would you leave it as it is? If you like this kind of content, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this in the future, and I will catch you next time.